Without further ado, let me introduce our speaker today. Joe Lopez is the former pivot center forward, as it's called today, of the Lions. In 1977, he was the starting center of the Senegalese national team at the tender age of 17 that won the gold at the African Championship. In 1978, they won the gold medal at the African Games in Algeria. That same year, Joe went to the US on a full scholarship at North Carolina Agricultural and State University, thus becoming the first African player ever to play Division I basketball at a US university. Furthermore, at that tender age, he was a starting five. He was part of the starting five. Obtained his Bachelor of Science and Economics and a Master's in Agricultural Economics. Joel worked for 30 years as an American diplomat and then he represented the US in many different parts of the world: South Africa, Zimbabwe, Lesotho, Botswana, Swaziland, Mozambique, Angola, just to name a few, Chile, and so on. Joe is a consummate diplomat, but he is also a very significant sports person. Joe, welcome on Acosphere Instagram Live.
Thank you, Jill. Good afternoon to all your followers. I'm glad to be here. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here speaking with you and the folks on social media.
Thank you. The honor is mutual. So my first question is, when I read your LinkedIn profile, you describe the Joe Lopez brand as the president of SEED Project, North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, which shows the diversity of interests and experiences that you have, and you have much more. Joe, what is your story?
Well, my story, I'd like to tell you a story about my story, or about a story.
Please.
I'd like for your audience to just picture a young kid born in Dakar, or Plateau, like they say, in the center of town. Came from humble beginnings, good family, with a father and a mother, a brother and a bunch of sisters. And that kid grew up in that environment, loving, nurturing, and grew up going to school, doing the right things. And at the age of 7 or 8, that kid had two sisters who were playing basketball at the elite level on the national team. And they used to take this little boy to the stadium. At the time, it was called Demba Diop. And that little boy, 7 or 8, would sit by the sideline waiting for the highlight of his day to happen. He would sit there, and all of a sudden, the orange basketball would go out of bounds, and this boy would take off after the ball, catch the ball, and start dribbling around while everybody is saying, give the ball. And the kid kept dribbling until finally the coach would come and grab the little boy and grab the ball and say, don't you do that again. To their amazement, the next ball that goes out, the kid did the same thing. And that went on for years. And that little boy eventually grew up to really enjoy basketball. And he started doing basketball through the normal channel, Minim Cadet, Junior. That little boy, fortunately, grew up to be 1 meter 96 centimeters at the age of 14.
Wow. And
that boy was not the butt of all jokes because he was developing himself into an athlete. And fast forward, that little kid got eventually selected to play on a senior team of a club team here called Jeanne d'Arc, and where he excelled with grown men. Remember, he was 16, 17, he was playing with men who were 28, 30. And that boy had to develop quickly a strong personality and believing in himself, which is, it's going to be the key of what I'm going to talk about today. And that kid eventually got selected onto the national team, and he went on and played on the national team and won 2 gold medals for Senegal. And then he was decorated by the President Senghor as a Chevalier of something, du Lion, and we got medals, and and eventually that kid found himself to the United States playing at a major university in the United States, where he excelled in both academics and basketball. And that kid went on to further his career as a diplomat at the Department of State and at the U.S. Department of Agriculture, where he worked for nearly 30 years in various capacities, from an attaché to a career minister at the embassy level. And that kid is me. So if I can do it, so can any kid who tries to brave these oceans to go overseas to Europe, to America for a better life. Their better life lie right before their eyes. It's right here on this continent of Africa. Because this is not a Senegalese problem, it is an African problem. And I think today we have a duty and a responsibility to look out for our youth, because they are our future leaders, and without them, we'll have no future. The whole world is talking about Africa is now, except for us Africans. And it's a shame, because I think we have a moral obligation to help these kids. I'm going to be very brutally honest with you. I am really outraged with the plight of our children. And it is time that we, as a collective we, Africans, take a look at this, because it is damaging to our economies and to our soul. So today we really need to take into account our youth.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And the buck stops with us. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I agree.
Fascinating story. Yeah, fascinating story, and that you remind everybody that actually what you did in 1978 doesn't need to be. There's so much here on the continent of Africa to be done for our youth, but we all have a responsibility for that. So what's the biggest opportunity that you have faced in your lifetime, my dear Joe? And what shift did it create in you, in your ecosystem, in the way you behave, and in the way you behave?
Well, the biggest thing that ever happened to me was to have an opportunity to represent Senegal at a tender age. When you're youthful, when you're a young man, you have no fear because you don't know. I remember my older teammates were a little bit nervous about the game because they knew the outcome could go either way. But when you're 17 years old, living under your mom and your brother and your sisters, you have no worries, And so you talk about biggest opportunity was to represent the country. And also beautiful about that was I grew up real fast because I knew there was something big at stake. So that was the biggest opportunity. And not knowing that opportunity opened up many other doors, such as getting a full athletic scholarship where they pay my entire tuition to go and study and play basketball, which ensued into another transformation where I learned about American culture, about believing in yourself, because that's something that is ingrained in the American psyche. From the very tender age, Americans know that the master of their ship is themselves. When when Michael Jackson speaks about the man in the mirror, it's a pejorative man, but it's a man on the mirror, the woman in the mirror. Change begins with the person you see every morning on that mirror, which is you, yourself. So the transformation was profound because leaving Senegal gave me an opportunity to blossom. From a very tender age, Jill, I knew my purpose. I knew it. I mean, you hear today people say, "Find your purpose." I'm sure some of our viewers today have heard that. Find your purpose. Luckily for me, I found my purpose at a young age. Is to wear short sneakers and a tank top and run around. That's something I love to do. And I knew that was going to open the door for me. So the transformation was enormous and profound. And I took it with a lot of pride. I didn't know all the superlative that they use today, believe in yourself, do the right thing. All of that, I didn't know about it, but I lived it.
Yeah.
Because I knew I had to train extra hard. I used to get up every morning at the age of 16 and run from where my mother used to live to the farm of my man. And back then, it was nothing but, forest, bushes, and I would run. And one day, this is an anecdote my mom told me, Joe, why are you going so early to running? Don't you know it's a lot of bad, evil spirits out there? This is the time of the day where they would come back home. I say, Mom, in my young age, I say, Mom, listen, for those bad spirits to catch me, they have to run faster than me. So I had developed that attitude from a very tender age that, the harder you work, the more successful you become. So that was ingrained in me even before I left Senegal. And when I got into the U.S., that got really solidified and anchored and cemented and made me who I am today.
The harder you work, the more successful you become.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. So when I think of you, of your brand, the following words come to my mind. You're a natural storyteller. You're a public speaker. You've spoken in different parts of the world. You're a winner and a competitor. That's in you. And you're a team player at the same time. Your leadership is very clear. And perhaps you can talk a little bit more about what you do with the Seed and the NBA Academy, and other things. Humanity and humility. These are the words that come to mind when I think of you. So 2 questions. What words would you use to describe your own brand and why you're efficient at what you do? And what skill sets did you have to develop over the years to be able to do what you do?
Great question, Gilles.
Thank you.
Words to describe myself would be quite many. I would say integrity, compassionate, tolerant, funny.
Yeah.
Funny, Jill. I don't take myself seriously.
Yeah.
If you allow me to give you an anecdote, I don't take myself seriously.
Yeah.
My kids were very young. The oldest were probably 12. The youngest was probably 6. We had a restaurant, and I'm sitting down with my children, and this guy from Senegal walks in. He had not seen me in probably over 20, 30 years. He walks in, he jumps, he gives me a big hug, and my kids are all in, what's going on? What's this guy doing hugging our dad? And the guy said, oh my, in French, he said, oh, we missed you. You're such a great basketball player. You were like one of the best ever. Was talking, and my kids were looking at this guy like he was from another planet. And then the guy turned to my kids. I have 3 daughters, and he said to them, "Do you know who your father is?" They looked at him like, "Yeah, he's our dad." American kid. And the guy went on and said, "Oh, your father was so great, and this and that and that." And my oldest daughter turned around and said, "Him?" Like pointing at me, our dad. I looked at her. Her name is Johanna, if I may mention her name, and I call her Joe. I said, "Joe, why you say that?" She said, "Dad, you always so nonchalant. You never in a hurry, and they talk about you like you're Michael Jordan." And the guy said he was a Michael Jordan of Senegal when he was in Senegal. And and then I realized that don't take yourself seriously, because if your own kids don't it's not they don't believe in you, but they look at you like you're just another person. And that's it. Or my daughter said, "Well, he's just my dad. He's not like the guy you described." So that's my story about being funny, and not taking yourself seriously. But to reiterate, the word that describe me is definitely compassion. Yeah. I'm very compassionate and passionate about things. I'm very I'm a doer. You know, I don't believe in wasting time on things that are irrelevant. And I care about people.
Yeah.
I care about our youth. I care about helping people who have less than I do.
And people care about you. You know, I don't know if you knew him before, but I was so surprised at the respect that Tony Parker gave you the other day when you kindly invited me. I was just, but this is you. People, get a liking to you and have that respect for you. Did you know him before?
No.
Yeah, it was like you have always known him.
True.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
All right.
It's one of those things. I knew who Tony Parker was. He didn't know who I was. And then he asked me about my story. I shared my story with him. And he basically told me, much respect, big brother, because you're the pioneer. Yeah. And I really like Tony Parker as well. I mean, he's very humble. He displays the same characteristic and values that I do, because I believe in everything that he believes in, or he believes in everything I believe in. I'm slightly older than him. And that's what life is all about. I was taught from my parents, and also I learned from my coach in Senegal and also in the United States to be humble. You know, to be humble and to be vulnerable, to accept your vulnerability, because if you do so, you accept your humanity, period. A lot of people, when they make a mistake, they perch themselves in that high stool and never come down and think, I'm the boss, I'll make mistake. When I make a mistake, I will apologize and I will acknowledge my error. And that has, served me well in my journey.
And thank you for being so generous. You know, you could have just not told me, but thank you for giving me the opportunity to meet him. He's one of the basketball players I love, and
my pleasure.
I appreciate you for that. Appreciate you for that. So,
wasn't he charming? He was a charming guy, wasn't he?
He was really charming. He was amazingly charming, absolutely. So as a former world-class, and I shouldn't say former, you're still a world-class basketball player, what are some of the shifts, transformation that you have gone through that you could share with us?
Before I do that, Jill, I like to, when I talk about basketball, I always acknowledge the shoulders on which I stand. I didn't get to where I am on my own. I had a slew of coaches, of teammates whose shoulders I stand, because basketball is a team sport. So you don't achieve anything by yourself. As great as Michael Jordan was, he didn't do it by himself. You know, as great as Joe Lopez was or is, he didn't do it without Mathieu Faye, whom I say hello au passage. My coach, Mamadou Sow, who really helped me tremendously in my career. And I would also mention my coach in the United States, Donald Corbett, who passed away, unfortunately, a couple of years ago. These individuals that I mentioned were there with me. They traveled this journey with me. So me standing here before your viewers and you, Jill, I stand with them, shoulder to shoulder, like I did when we won these championships and when we went to the rigor of playing for the national team and going to the World Basketball Championship, to Olympic Games and all of that. These guys were, like they say in French, compagnons d'armes. So I speak shoulder to shoulder with them. So the transformations, so to answer your question, I have to acknowledge them. So to answer your question is, the transformation is personal, because you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe, and when you believe in yourself, you know you belong, because you're 17 years old and you're playing with guys who are constantly reminding you that you're a young boy, that you don't belong here. So you have in your own way to prove to them that you're as big as they were, even stronger, because I was much stronger than most of those guys, even though I was younger, and because I believed in myself. And every day it was proving to myself, to grown man, that I was stronger than you, faster than you, I jumped higher than you, and guess what? The coaches trust me more than they trust you. That's important. So the transformation was work, 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 train, train, train. That same attitude I carried on when I went to school. That same attitude I carried on when I started working in the workforce. I started working at the Department of State. I would walk into an embassy. I would be one of the few blacks in there, and I would supervise a lot of non-black folks, Caucasians, Asians, and there's a great deal of things going on behind the scene that people don't see and talk about, and you have to live with it, but you have to stay firm in your conviction, in your belief, which I did, and I never allowed anyone to derail me from my objective, and I never allowed anyone to tell me that I wasn't good enough because I was black. I never allowed that. If you said it one time, you never say it again about me or about any other black person that you ever meet. So that was those things drove me. That's my passion. That's really my passion. And I believe in the blackness that we are. I tell people, even when I was in the US, they say, "Where are you from?" I said, "I'm from Africa." "But where in Africa?" I said, "I'm African, born in Senegal." And I'm one of the rare people you're going to meet who will be Senegalese in Senegal. When I go to Cape Verde, which is my origin, I'll be Cape Verdean. If I went to Lomé, I'll be Togolese.
Absolutely.
If I went to Benin, I'll be Beninois. I am a son of Africa. So every country I go, I feel great. I go to Nigeria, I feel like I'm at home. People think I'm Fulani. I say, "Yep, I'm Fulani. Give me the name you want to give me, I will go along with it. Because I love my blackness, I love my Africanness."
Sense of purpose, adaptability is tremendous with you.
Absolutely.
And I want to acknowledge everybody who is here. Thank you, friends. Thank you, viewers, for being here. This is as every week, but this is a special one. I think you're the first sports personality that I actually interview, and I love sports, and I've practiced sport for a long time. So let's carry on with the questions. You are a storyteller, as I said. Would you share maybe some anecdotes of your life that have really brought some value to you or to the world with us?
The one that really stands out is courage. Courage is so important, yet it is so misunderstood. I'm going to give you a true story. This is in Colombia in 2015. I was an American diplomat, and I had decided to go to the Amazon, because if you know the geography of the world, Amazon runs straight through Colombia, through Leticia, and go to Brazil, because Brazil shares a border with Colombia. So I decided to go to Leticia in the Amazon, the Colombian part, and I was there for a week, and we're talking about rudimentary living. No light, no running water, bunch of black Colombians. Incidentally, most black Colombians are from Central Africa, from Cameroon, from Congo. If you saw black Colombians, you've seen Cameroonians, Congolese, same morphology and everything else. In any event, so here I am, I meet this gentleman by the name of Juan. I won't give his last name because it's not relevant. And I thought the man, when I met him in 2015, I thought the man was probably 55, 60. Come to find out he was 83 years old. He looked younger than most people I knew, even some of the 40-year-old I knew. And he was a healer in that part of the world. So people came all over the world to see him. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was fit. So one day we were talking, and I was asking him about how his day started. He said, "Well, I get up every morning at 3 o'clock in the morning, then I'll take a walk in the forest." I said, "Oh, great." I said, "I'd like to do that with you one day." He said, you sure? I said, yeah. I said, I'd like to take a walk with you in the forest. And he started to say, well, let me tell you how this thing goes. He said, when I walk in the forest, he said, well, you're in the jungle. I said, yeah, I know. He said, in the jungle, they have wild animals. I said, really? Here too? He said, yeah. In Africa, they have them wild. Here, they have them wild. And then he started describing the panthera, which is the panther in Spanish. He talking about the leon, which is a lion, the mountain lion in Colombia. And all of a sudden, all my enthusiasm about walking with him, it was like this, going, and he said, then you have, little smaller animals of prey. And I said, okay, you know what? Forget about walking. He said, oh, no. He said, tomorrow morning, I will come and get you. We go for a walk. And then he explained to me something. He said, we're going to start the walk, and you're going to look in the bushes. You're going to see 2 red dots. I said, okay. And he goes, those will be the eyes of a panther, of a lion. He said, but you're going to notice as you walk, they're going to see your eyes too. They're going to move back. They will never come towards you, which means they are as afraid of you as you are of them. Because they see something standing up, not on 4 legs. I said, no. I said, you don't understand. I don't do this. He said, yes, you are. I thought I had made my point clear the next morning. God is my witness. I wasn't asleep because I knew in the back of my mind, this gentleman was coming to get me. And Lord behold, knock on my door, talk. Remember, no running water, no light, no electricity. The guy came with his stick, said, Jose, Joe in Spanish, listo, are you ready in Spanish? He said, yes, vámonos, let's go. So I had some boots. And ladies and gentlemen, we started this walk. For 2 hours, I saw red eyes moving back, and I knew if they moved towards me, they would kill me. But I trusted this man. So trust is important because he's been doing it for decades. Nothing happened to him. So I put basically my life in this man who I believe I was stronger than him, and I put my life in his hand. So we walked for 2 hours back and forth. We did not see one panther. Well, we saw their eyes moving backwards, but they never crossed our path. And that's when I began to realize that fear is nothing that an emotion that if you conquer it, you're on your way. So I'm not saying I'm fearless, but I've seen things in my life that today, if a situation presented itself in front of me, I would not panic or faint or lose my mind because it happened. I could have been killed. I could have been killed, in many pieces, but it didn't happen because I trusted what my teacher basically said to me. If I didn't trust the man, I wouldn't have done it. But yeah. I trusted his experience and his wisdom. It's the way he said it that just generated so much trust and confidence. I said, "There's nothing's going to happen to me." And to be honest, my fear kind of went out the minute I saw the first set of 2 eyes, and nothing happened. I said, "Okay, we're good. Let's go."
Yeah, yeah. So that you've described courage, indeed. It's pretty amazing, this story in the jungle of Colombia. Amazing. And you spent quite a few years in Latin America.
4.5 years.
4.5 years. Okay. So let's talk about an important subject. I ask the questions to all our guests, and Nadia does the same. We are in 2021, and yet in most part of the world, men and women with equal or better skills than men get the short end of the stick when it comes to equal opportunity, equal pay, etc. What can we as men do to contribute to the improvement of women's opportunities, whether they are in the corporate world, whether they're in the social world, or whether they are entrepreneurs?
For me, it's easy. every single person on this telecast, on this seminar has a mother. And I can go out on a limb and say every single one of us, including me and you, Jill, respect our mothers and love our mothers dearly. Every single one of us can say that our mothers has never misled us willingly. I can say that.
Yeah.
So when you talk about women's leadership, you don't have to go anywhere else. Look at your mom. If she's not here, look at her picture and see what you've become. It's mostly what your mother has done. And this is something that I take very seriously. My role model was women, 2 sisters. They were tremendous basketball players in their own rights, and I looked up to them. I looked up to my mother, because I lost my dad when I was quite young. I was 14 years old. I'm going on 15. So until the next 4 years of my life that I lived in Senegal, I was raised by my mother and my sisters. So the power of women is beyond this world. Men have a way of not wanting to acknowledge what's real. And let me repeat this. Men have a way of not acknowledging what's real because of our domineering traits. Because we know in our hearts that women are brighter, if not as bright, sometimes much brighter than we are.
Yeah.
Because I've always said, if women ran the world, there would be less wars. That I learned at the Department of State. No mother is going to say, my son, go to war and you might get killed while you go there. No, fathers don't have that gene in us. So we have responsibility, Jill, to put women where they belong, which is right next to us and behind us. And we have to give them the responsibilities. And what I would ask our sisters, our mothers, is to liberate themselves and not be shackled by what society says. Because I think in our continent today, women are being shackled by some of the societal myth. I call them myth because at the end of the day, it's not reality. People try to make it a reality, but it's not a reality. A reality is a woman trying to feed, her children, to hold the home. I mean, you talk about great managers. Look at a woman. You and I are married to professional women. They go to work, they come home, they make sure that everybody eats, that everything is taken care of, that the children are well dressed, well fed, that no one is lacking of anything. And we talk about management. Now we got to go to some great school of management to do. Look, I mean, maybe our wives and our mothers should teach those courses. Yeah. I mean, seriously. Yeah. So my feeling about women is maybe biased because I have 3 daughters, I have a wife, and I have a bunch of sisters. But I believe in the power of women because it is a transformative power. Because only women can bring people together because they have warm souls. And that's what brings people together. And I say women power, and whatever we can do, I'm there with them, alongside with them, and sometimes behind them, and let them lead the way, because they also, with our youth, hold the key to the future of this continent. Look at the number of women entrepreneurs on this continent who gets no help to do their businesses. And it is great time that some of the leaders running this continent start believing in their women by giving them adequate financing so they can do the business that they can do and will succeed probably oftentimes better than men, because women are compassionate by nature. Yeah. A woman will not see you and not like you because they're a mother.
Thank you. Thank you. So we have listeners spread around the world. I acknowledge our friends from New York, friends in Marrakesh, and in different parts of Africa and Europe. As a professional diplomat with about 30 years of experience, what life lessons have inspired you and provided growth that in turn you could inspire us with?
That's a tough one, but I'll give it a crack for sure. What I've learned as a career diplomat is not every country is equal. But within our inequalities, we have to respect people in their own rights. Yeah. It's not because I was an American diplomat and I spoke from a position of, not necessarily authority, but of high power because I had the full backing of the US government. Yeah. But you had to bring yourself to some level of humility. So the lesson I'm going to probably talk about is humility. Because humility basically tells you that take your fellow human being as your equal. You're not better than him. You happen to be born in the so-called more powerful country, but that doesn't make you a better person. In fact, some of the happiest people I've met in my life were not from the United States. They were from some of the least developed countries. Because in the United States, where I lived for 42 years, everybody were operating at this level. They had to show you that I am somebody. At the end of the day, you're nobody because you are as important as the environment in which you work. Let me give you an anecdote. This, you know, I love anecdotes, Gio. Yeah. I had a friend of mine, I can say he was an ambassador of the United States. Let's say no country mentioned. And this guy, well, this gentleman, when he moved in the country in which we were serving at the time, he had 4 escort motorcycle police officers and 6 fully armored vehicles. And everywhere he went, you would hear the siren buzzing. Everywhere. He goes up, and then he was married to a South American woman who were slightly of a darker complexion than he was. So they move forward, they go on vacation back to Washington, D.C. They go to Safeway in Southwest D.C., true story. And they do the grocery shopping, and the cashier finished ringing the thing, pack, grocery store, and tell the wife, who the cashier thought was a maid, so okay, now you pick up the bag and take it for your boss. And if you ever know anything about South American women, they're like African women, full of personality and strength. And she said, hey, excuse me for putting my fingers, I'm not the maid, I'm his wife. And she turned around and called this gentleman by his name, by his first name, and said, pick up the grocery and let's go. And the man said, yes, dear, picked up the grocery, put it in the basket, and off they went. Talk about humility. He understood. And he was one of my mentors. He said, don't ever take yourself seriously, because you would walk around here with your Department of State suit and feeling all important. You walk in an embassy, Marine will salute you and all of that. You think you're it. You step out of the street, you're another black man. Yeah. Because you have no control over the life of the people that you see every day. So being humble is something that I would definitely preach, right? And be vulnerable. You know, a lot of us think men don't cry, men don't do this. Well, I cry when I am emotionally happy. I cry when something hurts, you know, when I lose a loved one, when something bad happens, sometimes to people that I know but are not close family members, you know, I shed a tear. There's nothing weak about that. We also Bill Clinton cried. We also Obama cried. We also George Bush cried. Yet if they had to send the fleet of the U.S. Army to go and kill folks, they did in the same breath. So being vulnerable is okay.
Yeah.
Being vulnerable is what I found lacking in our society here in Africa, because they tell men don't cry. It's a joke. Men do cry.
Yeah.
Men do have emotions. Men do cry. And a man who cries doesn't make him less than a man. That's the second one. So be vulnerable, be humble. The third one is, no matter what you do in life, be prepared. Whether you're going to give a speech in front of one person or 10 people or 1,000 people, be prepared. Because when you prepare, you know the subject, you know your audience, you'll have the self-confidence that you need to deliver your message. Those are the three key elements that I would leave with your audience and let them know that be humble, or I can flip it. I say be prepared in anything you do in life, whether it's to give a presentation at work, to write a report, make sure you know what you're doing by asking questions if you have questions to ask. Be humble and allow yourself to be vulnerable. If you do that, you will see a lot of things positive happen to your life, because you will no longer have this dealing with the stress that you deal with. Oh, I'm not going to cry because I'm a man. Oh, you know, something hurts. Cry and release that endorphin. Just let it go. And then you feel much better. You will feel much better if you shed more tears. That's why women are bounce back faster than men sometimes when tragedy happens to them, because women will just let it out. And I wish men did the same thing.
Indeed.
But we are always constrained with societal pressure about you can't do this, men don't do this, men do. If you want to move forward in life, you have to block what I call that noise, or what people tell you can't do, you shouldn't do. If you fall in that trap, well, you're not going to go further than the tip of your nose.
Block that noise, what people tell you you can't do, you shouldn't do. Beautiful. Yes. And, preparation, vulnerability, and humility. Fantastic. There's so many comments, so many questions. Thank you, everybody, for interacting. I won't be able to cover all of them. I'll just read one or two. Great story, great lesson. Totally right. We're just human. These are two of the last ones that were mentioned. I have three more questions, my friend. You have had plenty of public speaking, conference participation experiences, and you're a natural storyteller. What tips about public speaking and your business experience would you like to give our audience?
Well, let me just preface this by saying that every speaker, no matter their level, even Obama, whom I had the privilege to interact with, they get nervous before a speech. So if someone tells you they're never nervous before a speech, they tell you a story that, it's the fiction of their imagination. So being nervous is part of it, because when you're nervous, not nervous to the point where you petrify, you can't even say a word. But being nervous is a normal human process, because you are doing something new. And so nothing beats great preparation. And that comes from my athletic side. You would not be a great basketball player without the preparation that you need. And that takes hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of preparation. And to do a great speech, it takes hours and hours and hours in preparation. I don't know the statistic, but I'm pretty sure it takes a whole lot of hours to prepare for an hour speech, or maybe a 40-minute speech. You probably need a whole day or probably a whole week. But that's what would make you have less butterflies. So be prepared, yes. And once you prepare, everything else ensues. You'll have the confidence because I know the subject. When people ask questions, I give to answer the question. So that's what I would leave the audience with. The preparation is the key to any great speech.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll replace one of my questions by a question of the audience. Somebody called Jean Miss, I think. apologies if I don't pronounce your name correctly. As someone who works with young people, what are the biggest challenges Africa's youth have to face? And maybe you can just speak a little bit about your, I mean, I know you're very discreet, but maybe you can speak a little bit about your involvements with young people.
It's Jean-Mise. Okay, Jean-Mise, thank you for your question. Actually, it is a great question. I'm the president of an organization called Seed Project. It's been in existence for over 20 years, and we've done a tremendous job with our youth on this continent. And so the biggest challenge that one faces at John Mise's level or at my level is the lack of confidence that our youth have, boys and even worse with girls. To get an African kid to come in public and even say their name, it's like pulling teeth. It's very, very, very difficult. So Jean-Mise, if you are involved in this kind of, or Jean-Michel, okay, if you're involved in this kind of work, I would definitely suggest that you begin to empower the children by letting them know that they have to believe in themselves. You can't do it as their coach, their teacher. You can give them the tools, but they have to believe in themselves that they can do this, because it's not rocket science. You are in front of adults, you have parents, you know. Another adult is just the parents that doesn't bear your name. So you should be able to sit down with them and say, oh, okay, my name is Joe. I do this, I do that. And begin to empower children, because oftentimes what I've discovered on this continent is people do things for themselves. You know, they miss the point, because I had to speak about me because you asked me the question, but normally when I speak to audiences, I don't speak about myself, because I feel that my record speaks for itself. If you go Google or whatever, you can see what I did. So I don't take a lot of energy to talk about myself, even though I did today. I'm sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. But our children, they're the one who needs the attention. You know, they're the one who we need to nurture. Next time you go out, you see a child at the grocery store walking around, just come to the child and say, hey, how you doing? You know, just ask a simple question. What class are you in? Oh, I'm not in class. Why aren't you in class? Oh, because, I don't know, X, Y, Z. Well, if a child comes and tells you, well, I can't go to school because my parents can't afford it, if you're in a position to make that happen for them, tell them, hey, tomorrow I'll come and get you, and we can go and I can pay for your tuition for at least for a month or two. But we cannot sit and be accomplices to the demise. Sorry for using such big terms of our youth, because every time you walk around a kid and ignore him like he's invisible, well, you're setting yourself up for something bigger, because the kid you ignore today could be the guy who's going to come and rob you tomorrow. Yeah. I've seen it in the United States, and it's making its way on this continent. Yes, let's stop ignoring our youth. Let's start engaging our youth. Let's stop being afraid of our children. Yes, when you see a kid doing something wrong on the street, you have to walk in as an adult and say, hey, stop it. I'm not going to accept or tolerate you behaving this way, because you know better. Yeah. And then you can engage the kid in a discussion. It's a mindset that we all have to cultivate ourselves to get back to, because we have it. Our parents, you remember when the whole neighborhood raised the children? When you did something wrong, Mr. So-and-so, so-and-so's father will take you and beat your butt down, well, probably not down, but at least beat your butt up. And then, you know, you go back home, you say, oh, Mr. So-and-so beat me up. Your mom gives you another beating.
Yes. Yes.
We all gone through that, or at least someone's old enough.
Have to.
Which meant when you're outside, you got to behave.
Yeah.
Let's get back to that. You're going to see where the country goes.
Yeah. Indeed, indeed. So many comments, so many questions. Here, one is saying, I see you, see the humanity in every one. you meet.
Yes.
And yeah, let's see the humanity in everyone, and particularly in our youth. And the things you're doing with our youth are just tremendous. We're coming to an end, my friend. I have one last question. Yeah, unfortunately, good things come to an end, so they can start better the next time. So, what's your final takeaway for the audience that has been listening to our conversation?
I love this continent, and I hope and I pray that those of you who have joined this telecast, for lack of a better term, love this continent as much as I do, and I know you do. That's why you're here, connected. So together, because now we have a platform. Together, let's begin to see the humanity in everyone, like Mr. Pasha said so well. Because at the end of the day, as our youth move, so will our continent. Because as I said in my opening remarks, the entire world say Africa is now. You go to the US today, they say, oh, we got to go to Africa, man, because that's where this thing is happening. I say, yeah, it is happening. But it seems like here, we're not even awake. We're still asleep while folks are coming and they're just doing what they do. And I'm not going to not mention this. When you look in Senegal, I've seen it in Nigeria, I've seen it in Burkina, I've seen it in Mali. Wherever you go, there is Chinese, there is Turkish, there's Indian. I have no issue with those. God, children, because we all got children. But by God, where are we Africans? Because today I remain firm in my conviction that Africa will not be developed by anybody else but Africans. Not by Americans, not by Turks, definitely not by French. They've done enough damage as it is. So not by them, not by any other ethnic group or nationality other than Africans. And there are a few countries in the world that are beginning to understand that. And I will mention Nigeria. Yeah. Nigeria has its reputation, but you know, I always say, Nigeria do it like Nigerians do. Yeah. And eventually the world will adapt to how Nigeria does it. Because it's not the American way, it's not the French way, it's the Nigerian way. Yeah. And so long as it's working, let's find our own way. Let's find the Senegalese way. Let's find the Cape Verdean way. Let's find the Benin way, the Togolese way. And eventually, we'll be able to put this melting pot together and have the African way. Because we all have similarities in our cultures, you know, and we were divided by boundaries that we didn't set. Yeah, you go to in southern Nigeria, you'll find people who, I mean, they're Ghanaian, they're whatever. So those boundaries are not natural boundaries, they're human boundaries that were made by someone who's protecting their own interests. Yeah. Yes.
That's
so sorry about the lengthy answer, but I had to mention that because it's a topic that's really important to me. Giving the Africans back to the Africans. I mean, giving Africa back to the Africans.
Yeah, and we have to take our destiny in hands. As President of Ghana says, you know, he doesn't need any of the world financiers to come and bring in money. He's getting money because he first and foremost looks at the African interest and the African people to reinvest here, and he's bringing back, you know, African Americans to the country of Ghana and giving them citizenship if they want to come back. So thank you for those wise words.
Great move.
Yeah, thank you very much. I want to end with somebody who is a family member, I think, for you. She's also a family member for me. And she said, it's Nanu Cavaro. Yeah, she said, very happy to see you, Toto. So
that's my nickname.
Yeah,
oh, well.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you very, very much. Joe, before we part, let me speak about next week, ladies and gentlemen. Next week, we have another fabulous speaker. I will not reveal all the things that you'll discover. His name is Khalid Igwe. He's a young man, a leader, a shaker, and Nadia will be interviewing him. From the bottom of my heart, my dear Joe, thank you so much for spending time with me and with our friends and our guests today. It was a fabulous interview and fabulous conversation. Take good care of yourself and stay well.
Thank you very much for having me, and thank you to the audience as well for being so bright and attentive to my rambling on.
Take good care of yourself. Goodbye now.